This is the Troll Patrol, live with Justin FREAKIN.
Welcome to the Troll Patrol, live. It's a freaking Thursday. My littlest cat is like stuck to my feet here. Let's see if I can capture him. Oh. Say hi, Mr. Maynard. I don't know what he's been into down at my feet. He's not a very nice cat. He's kind of a shithead. But he's very soft. I'm interested in what this TrueNews.com article is. We got a lot of shit to talk about today. First of all, I want to mention we had a right-winger in the comment section for a good amount of time last night. He kept telling me that he tagged me in something on Parler. So I went to Parler to look at what he tagged me in. It was this guy right here, Clifford. And I couldn't look at the post because he wanted me to watch some video. I don't really take links from people during the live show because I don't know what it is. And it's not content that I'm concerned about. It's like copyright. Like, that's my concern. Not that it's something offensive, because I love offensive shit. But I can't look at the dude's post, so I click on his profile over here. He blocked me. He came and he was in, I guess I called him a dumb fuck or something. He was talking to us here on the show, and he went and blocked me on the free speech platform. I enjoy Parler. I get into a lot of trouble over there. In case you guys are not aware, I'm in like not giving a fuck mode for the holidays. It's a holiday thing I do. I just kind of check out for the next couple of weeks. I'll be back. Don't worry. I can't remember if I mentioned it last night on the show or not, but I want to say I kind of glossed over it, that we got hacked. Clown Dude is tomorrow night. That's a Friday night thing. What, Anna, why do you not like Christmas? I'm into the Christmas, but I like to keep it in the last couple of weeks. It's like I put up my Christmas decorations 2 weeks before Christmas. I switched my coffee creamer to peppermint mocha 2 weeks before Christmas. I got some eggnog. I'm getting in the Christmas spirit now. Like actual literal sacrificing? You're in here with a bunch of Satanists. If there's a sacrifice going on and you didn't invite us, I'm gonna be upset. Hail Satan. But apparently this hacking of our government was way worse than the story was just breaking last night. And I kind of glossed over it. Significant and ongoing cyber attack suspected to be the work of Russia poses a grave risk to critical infrastructure entities. Holy fuck. The U.S. government continues to reel from a large and sophisticated hacking campaign that affected top federal agencies, including the Energy Department, the Treasury and Commerce Departments, and it's even said to have targeted the agency responsible for the country's nuclear weapons stockpile. Well. Authorities expressed increasing alarm over the hack, suspected to be the work of Russia, warning that it poses a grave risk to federal, state, and local governments. In a statement on Thursday, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency also warned that it will be difficult to remove the malware inserted through network software. Reports of the hacks emerged over the weekend. I had not heard of China having all the codes for our ICBMs. That sounds a little sus, as the kids say. The true scale of the breach is still unknown, but looks to have extended beyond the U.S. government. On Thursday, Reuters reported that Microsoft was also hacked as part of the suspected Russian campaign. I'm sure this has the conspiracy theorists on the Facebook and the Parler going nuts. SolarWinds, the company behind the software targeted by hackers, said earlier this week that up to 18,000 of its more than 300,000 customers had downloaded the compromised software. They don't own 65% of our debt. They own about 13%. The majority of our debt is owned by the American people. Maybe they own 65% of the foreign-owned debt, but most of our debt is to America. Obama gave the Chinese generals a tour of the Pentagon. Okay. Trump has been sucking the cock of North Korea and Saudi Arabia. George W. Bush had the Taliban over to his Texas ranch. We do a lot of crazy things in the name of diplomacy. So our foreign entanglements are nothing I'm not aware of. But I wonder how much of this Russian hack is a result of the fact that we have no leadership whatsoever in the federal government at the moment. It's turned crazy inside the White House. Trump may not be willing to accept his term is ending, but as the clock ticks down on his time in office, hundreds of his allies, including some of his closest business associates and many high-profile criminals, are ramping up their efforts to squeeze out the final ounces of his presidential power. Well, now that's obvious. I don't know what you mean by that. Do we have a problem with oligarchs controlling our government? Yes, absolutely. Since 1871? This is a crazy little history lesson here. I mean, the Civil War was fought over Southern oligarchs thinking they could push everybody else around. We've still got that old money seeping into our politics. You and I, Anna, we should be able to get on the same page. It seems like we both want money out of politics. and to get a breed of politician that actually speaks for the people. It's, I want my friends to run for office. I am encouraging every single person that I know that has a little bit of speaking skill to go and run to be a politician. Let's take over the house, the state houses, city councils. Sure, there's a plethora of reasons why Lincoln is on the penny, but I guess that's the top one. I mean, the Civil War is a little more complicated than that, though. Freeing the slaves was not Lincoln's goal. Preserving the Union was Lincoln's goal. He even had a speech where he said, like, if he could preserve the Union and not free the slaves, he would do that. Or if he could preserve the Union and free the slaves, he would do that. It was whatever preserved the Union. History's not so black and white. When discussing it, there's a lot of nuance that goes into, you know, the events, and you've got to look at things from the perspective and all the different pressures that was going on at the time. I'm fascinated by what's going on now, though. I'm tired. I'm very tired. I'm tired of the politics. That's why, like, I'm in not give a fuck mode for the holidays, because I can't do the right-wing nonsense. It's just been non-stop derp for weeks now. A lawyer spoke out, it was today or yesterday, telling Palm Beach that Trump can't live at Mar-a-Lago. Let's see what they got to say here.
As Matt Sesney looks at the controversy brewing.
This letter is 2 pages long, written by an attorney, and telling Palm Beach's mayor and town council that basically the town should not allow Donald Trump to live at Mar-a-Lago once he leaves the White House.
This is about people on the island who want to preserve their quality of life and don't want clogged roads. They don't want the attention, the commotion, the drama that an ex-president...
I don't think they're going to let him back in New York.
Dave Ehrenberg is the Palm Beach County State Attorney. He says the 1993 agreement Trump signed allowing Mar-a-Lago to become a private club plainly states no one can stay at the club more than 21 days a year.
Even before he was president, he was clearly at the property for more than 21 days a year. I think everyone knew it, but it was never enforced.
But now it seems some on Palm Beach want it enforced. Larry Casey is a longtime Republican.
He is going to have a shit ton of problems when he leaves.
Agreement at the time, but times have changed. Things have changed.
Casey says nothing will seemingly stop.
He's probably going to lose his Twitter.
And he may have grand plans.
As long as part of it...
He's probably going to be hit with multiple subpoenas.
And it's going to be one anyway, because the former president lived there. So it's going to be a National Historic Site.
This is not the first argument they've had. They had the litigation over the height of his flagpole. They had the dispute over his dock that he wanted to install just this year. Even the chandelier in his grand ballroom at Mar-a-Lago is subject to lawsuits.
In the end, Ehrenberg says he believes the town of Palm Beach will try to avoid a long legal fight and work out some agreement that will allow Donald Trump and his family to live at Mar-a-Lago. In West Palm Beach, TV, News Channel 5.
It's gonna be hilarious watching him try to fend off this shit without the power of the presidency. It's going to be incredibly costly. The amount of money he is going to need to waste in lawsuits. Apparently, Mike Pence is going to stick around to certify Joe Biden as the president, and then he's going to jet. This cracked me up. Mike Pence could confirm Joe Biden as president-elect when Congress meets in 3 weeks, and then leave the country, his aides have said. Now, this could be a shit show, as we're going to talk about here in a second. Usually it's just procedural. We already know that there are a few representatives that are going to dispute the results. I didn't think a senator would step up. But we may now have one that has spoken up and said that they're going to join with one of the members of the House to hold up the vote to confirm Joe Biden. The vice president, who is due to confirm the Democrats' ascent to the United States presidency in a session of Congress on January the 6th, is believed to be planning an overseas trip straight after those proceedings. 3 close aides told Politico that Mr. Pence would leave the United States for around a week after the vote in Congress, in what appeared to be a bid to avoid Republican scrutiny. In doing so, Mr. Pence would also avoid any scrutiny over his position as Donald Trump's vice president, as well as Republican backlash amid allegations the election was rigged against Mr. Trump, which have been without basis. Mr. Pence will travel to Bahrain, Israel, and Poland, with the possibility that more stops are added. I wonder if Pence is going to... Oh, he is absolutely going to run. Early indication is that he is like the second place leader in polling behind Trump. Even if he doesn't run for president, like he might try to get a Senate seat back or something. No, he was in the House. The House, and then he was governor, I think. He may run for Senate in Indiana. He definitely has political aspirations. Beyond being vice president to fucking Trump. But then we have the newly elected senator from Alabama, Tommy Tuberville, has stepped up and said that he might join with the congressperson from Alabama, Mo Brooks, in challenging the results. This is why he was stumping in Georgia. He had this to say.
Folks, we got to grab a hold and hold on. We have no choice. Listen to me now. We have no choice but to win this election. They're going to try to steal it. They're going to try to buy it. They're going to do everything they can, lie, cheat, steal to win this election, like they did in the presidential election. It's impossible. It is impossible what happened. But we're going to get that all correct. I'm going to tell you, don't give up on it.
Are you going to fight to make this election right?
Pardon?
Are you going to fight to make this election right?
We're going to fight hard.
What can y'all do on January 6th? Madison said y'all had tricks up your sleeve.
We're going to run into it at the airport. We got to get just wait. Well, you see what's coming. You've been reading about it in the House. The Democrats are not going to. We're going to do it in the Senate.
I'm sorry.
Well, you're a senator.
We got to grab a hold and hold on.
And I named off a handful more that could be willing to stake their reputations on fucking Trump. Trump, the man that they're going to have to deep clean the White House after he leaves. Scrub everything. White House will have deep cleaning with doorknobs, light switches, elevator buttons disinfected before Joe Biden moves in. Now I'm assuming this is probably pretty standard. But I'm sure that they are going to take extra precautions after the amount of COVID outbreaks they have had during this administration. The White House will undergo a deep cleaning between the Trump and Biden administrations. Among the items being scrubbed, the furniture, doorknobs, window treatments, light switches, elevator buttons, and restroom features. Not to just go in with one of those, like, power washers with some hot water. Just spray everything down. The West Wing will be thoroughly cleaned on January the 20th. The Biden team has strict COVID procedures in place, expected to continue when they take over at the West Wing. It's just the amount of people. So you had Melania, Barron, Trump, Kayleigh McEnany, Hope Hicks, Mark Meadows, Stephen Miller, and several of Vice President Pence's staff. What up, Ninja? So, deep cleaning the White House before Biden moves in. Now this is the story that I've been dying to talk about all day. A Biden aide is in hot water over calling Republicans fuckers. Did that story last night. I can't believe those. Like, that's just insane. But there's a documentary on Hulu, Totally Under Control, I think is what it's called. And it's like, from watching that documentary, Trump just doing nothing, the Trump administration just doing nothing would have been better than what they did, because it seemed like they were actively working against public health measures. And I guess that report is the smoking gun that they were indeed doing the opposite. They were doing the things that would undermine the public health measures. Schools right now, holy shit. But yeah, that story blew my mind about them. The administration took an approach of wanting herd immunity. They should be tried at The Hague. Genocide is what they were doing. I was floored by it. But this, like, a Biden aide called Republicans fuckers. And is now under fire. Think about how many people Republicans have gotten killed with their bullshit this year. And you want to talk about mental health issues, suicides, drug abuse, all that shit. You need to point the finger at Mitch McConnell and the failure of the Senate to be able to come to terms on a coronavirus deal. But this woman just calls Republicans fuckers, and it's a front page story? Holy shit. Advisors close to President-elect Joe Biden are frustrated over a Glamour magazine interview in which incoming White House Deputy Chief of Staff Jen O'Malley Dillon referred to Republicans on Capitol Hill as fuckers. Hopefully, I mean, the $600 thing that just got thrown in there today. I call people fuckers every day. I do a show where I call people fuckers. Give me a job at the Biden administration. They've called for unity with Republicans, and apparently he's thinking about giving a spot inside the administration to a Republican. As you can do, there's been no Bernie people appointed to spots inside the Biden administration or nominated for a cabinet position. This is probably the coolest staffer he's got. On Monday, he promised to turn the page on the campaign and heal the country. Some donors want O'Malley Dillon, his campaign manager, to apologize to Biden and perhaps to congressional Republicans. Fuck that. Fuck them. How dare anyone suggest she apologize? For those of us who, from day one, bought into Biden's calls for civility and a return to normalcy, this is just beyond the pale. It's plain stupid, said one Biden donor. That's the very definition of a shit lib right there. Beyond the pale. Republicans are fuckers. They've let tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people die from a preventable virus. Another Biden official said, could she have used a different adjective? Sure. But if you know Jen, she's real, she's authentic, she says it how it is. And fucking, like, fuckers. Fuckers is too light of a word to refer to these dumb fucks. Fuckers isn't a strong enough word to sum up people like this idiot in North Carolina who is urging Trump to suspend civil liberties to keep power and invoke the Insurrection Act. North Carolina State Senator Bob Steinberg paraphrased a conservative commentator to make a radical suggestion that President Trump should declare a national emergency, suspend civil rights, and remain in power over his baseless claims of election fraud. There's something going on here bigger than what anybody is willing to talk about, Steinberg told WRAL Tuesday evening. I don't like conspiracy theories at all, but something is going on here that's bigger than meets the eye. What the fuck are you talking about? I mean, this guy is clearly a fucker. And surely the Biden campaign aide isn't the only one who sees it. Because the former chair of the New Hampshire GOP has quit the party, saying that the Texas lawsuit was the last straw. I became a Republican in part because those values seemed inherently aligned with the Republican Party as I understood it. A voice for equality, freedom, constitutional conservatism, with a rich history of fighting for what was right because it was right. I ran for Congress and became the Republican nominee running on these beliefs. I was elected to 2 terms as the chairman of the New Hampshire Republican Party. For the past 5 years, that's all? This shit's been going on far longer than 5 years. I have found myself fighting for what I thought were the principles of my party in the face of the ever-deteriorating character and integrity of party representatives. They have revealed their impotence and decrepitude as they have fallen one by one. She's a good writer. One by one at the feet of the most corrupt, destructive, and unstable president in the history of our country. It seems there is no assault on human dignity too great, no attack on democracy too extreme to inspire the Republican weaklings in Congress to speak up or stand up to President Trump. Very well put. Welcome, Comrade Horn. Where was she 4 years? This shit has been going on far longer than this. The Republicans been going off the deep end since definitely the W. Bush administration. But they started with their conspiracies and shit during the Clinton administration. The Clinton administration. Clinton, a right-wing fucking neoliberal. They couldn't stand him. That's when they started this far march to fascism. But I mean, they just keep getting away with it. Nobody's ever held accountable. And then you get shit like this. Former Houston police captain accused of holding a repairman at gunpoint in an attempt to prove voter fraud. What in the fuck? A former Houston police captain was charged with assault on Tuesday after running a man off the road and holding him at gunpoint in an effort to prove what authorities have called a bogus voter fraud scheme. Mark Aguirre claimed an air conditioner repairman was the mastermind of the scheme and said he believed that the man's truck was filled with fraudulent ballots when he ran his SUV into it on October the 19th. What? The defendant stated the driver has approximately 750,000 fraudulent mail ballots and is using Hispanic children to sign the ballots because the children's fingerprints would not appear in any databases. What the fuck? Aguirre. Thank you. He was a Houston police captain. This is what happens when you're just on a steady diet of Republican nonsense. It rots your fucking brain. Aguirre told police he and some friends set up a command post at a Marriott and conducted 24-hour surveillance on the repairman for 4 days. Ran the man's truck off the road, pointed a gun at him, and forced him onto the ground and put a knee in his back. Holy shit! This story is just off the rails. Thank God the truck driver wasn't hurt. A lengthy investigation determined allegations of election fraud were unfounded. Nah, shit. That doesn't surprise me at all. I can't imagine what Texas politics are like. I bet the state GOP and even the state Democratic Party are corrupt as fuck. Was paid $266,000 by the Houston-based Liberty Center for God and Country. Of course. Wow! And these are the kind of fuckers that should cause everyone to leave the Republican Party. If Media Winch is in here, she's got some fantastic recipes for being able to harvest adrenochrome. I believe she made a pot roast of a child last night. She sent me a picture. I knew you did. U.S. whistleblower was pressed to exaggerate leftist role in urban protests, according to a lawyer, because of course they were. A former acting chief of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's Intelligence Office has told Congress that DHS leaders pressed him to overstate illegal border crossings from Mexico and overplay the role of far-left groups in violence during anti-government protests last summer. I wish they let me on Twitter. In testimony before the U.S. House of Representatives Intelligence Committee, former intelligence chief Brian Murphy accused department leadership of urging him to blame far-left groups in an exaggerated fashion for violence during summer protests in Portland, Oregon, according to his lawyer, Mark Zaid. Duh. Not telling me anything I don't already know. So let's check in with Georgia. We've got a couple of weeks until the special election. Apparently, voting on the first day. Peace out, Anna. Voting on the first day of early voting for the runoff exceeded voting on the first day for the general election. So far, more than 914,000 people have voted. Through 3 days of early voting, the number of votes is approaching the presidential election pace. So far, it's been more in-person voting. More females voting. So that's encouraging. That voting is off to a great start in Georgia. And the Georgia race is one of the reasons why people have speculated that McConnell is coming around on the stimulus deal. Stimulus. AOC has been calling them survival checks. I think it's good messaging on her part. But now Bernie Sanders and Joe Manchin apparently had a fight on a conference call yesterday afternoon. Things reportedly got testy on Wednesday during an internal conference call as lawmakers tried to iron out a bipartisan agreement for a coronavirus relief bill. Multiple aides told the Post that tensions flared specifically between Senators Bernie Sanders and Joe Manchin. Fuck yeah, give it to him, Bernie. Who reportedly got into a heated exchange over how big stimulus checks should be. Checks were initially left out before reportedly being added as part of a compromise. Sanders argued for more robust direct payments, while Manchin advocated for a lower amount, instead preferring to emphasize unemployment benefits. This shouldn't be an either-or thing. You're targeting two different groups. Send out direct payments and up unemployment benefits. The $300 for unemployment isn't enough. Sanders, for his part, has called the inclusion of $600 checks a good start. It is not enough. AOC has been urging people to call their congresspeople, call their senators, and tell them that the $600 checks are not enough. AOC, a New York Democrat, is urging people to speak out if they think $600 is not enough for another round of stimulus checks. If you don't want your member to vote for a $600 deal, you really need to tell them that. In March, the first COVID-19 stimulus package included $1,200 checks for U.S. adults. Current proposals call for the checks somewhere between $600 and $900. Honestly, I'm the same way. Me telling Richard Shelby $600 isn't it, but like they do respond. They respond when you call them. They respond when they get emails overwhelmingly from one side. Fucking Ted Cruz, man. $600 isn't enough, but hey, at least they got fucking $600 in there. And we might actually see it. Who am I kidding? We won't see it before Christmas. If they pass it this week, they won't. Because they're talking about working over the weekend in order to be able to get this bill passed. So really, they're going to be able to pass it maybe Monday. Yeah, you're right. It's probably going to be the first week of January. We'll see those checks. Because it took about 3 weeks the last time, didn't it? But now something that's going to piss you off. Scores of private charitable foundations got Paycheck Protection Program money because of course they did. NPR has identified at least 120 foundations that collectively received more than $7.5 million in PPP funding. Recipients also included Walt Disney Family Foundation, the foundation of late celebrity photographer Robert Mapplethorpe, and a foundation affiliated with investor Warren Buffett. What the fuck? And it's not just the rich people charities that got it. It's the rich people churches too. Whoa! Always getting me with the ads.
Early During the pandemic, the government passed the Paycheck Protection Program.
Yeah, I don't know who this guy is. Marcus Lamb. I've never even heard of him. Let's find out.
One of the world's largest religious networks was approved for almost $4 million of taxpayer money. But soon after, it purchased a multi-million-dollar jet.
Because of course they did.
A few questions about that.
The best is yet to come!
Marcus Lamb is the charismatic leader of one of the world's largest religious networks, Daystar Television, which is also a very prosperous tax-exempt church.
Daystar was recently appraised at over $1 billion.
He lives a life of luxury.
I really am in the wrong business. I could have been a preacher.
When the pandemic hit, Lamb's Daystar TV applied for the
Fuck me.
Paycheck Protection Loan Program.
Why did I have to have ethics?
To help pay employees' salaries and received $3.9 million. We've learned that just
Jesus Christ!
Millions of dollars in taxpayer funds, the church bought a private jet.
It's a multi-million-dollar 1997 Gulfstream 5, like this. The luxury aircraft, which Lamb says they got for less than half the market value.
Oh, well, they got a really good deal on it.
Lamb says they were able to buy the Gulfstream with proceeds from an investment and the sale of its old jet, not by using government PPP money. And he insists the jet is for ministry purposes. But is that always the case?
Well, yeah, it was like that. Wasn't it Kenneth Copeland?
From his home in
Didn't want to sit with the people that were full of sin,
enjoying 8 days
or some shit like that.
Look how his family described the trip on social media. Our amazing fam on vacay, wrote his wife, and his son posted lots of great memories made on our family beach vacation this year. But Lamb insists to Inside Edition that it was a, quote, working vacation.
Wow.
A leadership retreat with his family, who are church too, and were consumed with meetings. In September, Lamb and his
Pay their employees instead of trying to get on the dole from the government.
When they returned to Dallas, they looked like they had time to play some.
Nah.
Is known to be an avid golfer.
Hole-in-one number 4.
And in October, Pastor Lamb flew with his wife and some friends to Naples.
I love their little graphic with the bobbleheads. That's great.
He told us he had 5 meetings there and spoke at a church. Pete Evans is an investigator with the Trinity Foundation, a church watchdog group.
They got millions of dollars from the government.
That he freaks me out.
Private jet. It just looks bad.
We recently caught up with Pastor Lamb as he arrived at Daystar's golf tournament.
Oh, here's Maynard. What's up, dude?
Received millions of dollars in taxpayer money, and then 2 weeks later bought a private jet for millions of dollars. Can you explain that? Did you use taxpayer money to buy a private jet?
No, we did not.
Then what are you?
We had our own money.
Then why were you taking government money, bitch?
Then why did you take 2 vacations with that church jet, including to Florida last week where you played golf?
Maynard, stop rubbing your face against my microphone.
We had vacation, but we also did several meetings with ministers while we were there.
Then it was time for a round of golf.
Bye.
Earlier this week, after our inquiries, the church paid back the entire $3.9 million it received.
As well they should. Tax fucking churches.
It does not use charitable donations to
Why are you looking at me like that for?
the purchase of that jet. It also says it
You religious?
with all laws.
They all look weird. That dude looked so weird. I wouldn't trust anybody that looks like that. I also wouldn't trust anybody that looks like Tucker Carlson. Apparently, there's this, like, this whole Jill Biden being a doctor thing. It bothers them for some reason. I don't get it. This has been the most I haven't even talked about it. I've shared a couple memes about it because it's funny. But apparently this is a really big deal to right-wingers. The fact that they're emasculated by a woman having the title of doctor. So let's hear what Tucker Carlson's got to say about
You're on
it.
vacation with your family when suddenly you double over with shooting chest pains and lose consciousness. You wake up strapped in the back of an ambulance, racing to the emergency room. Paramedics hover over you, trying to keep you calm. You've had a massive coronary, they shout over the sirens, but we're going to take good care of you.
Absolutely, she earned her title.
In the country. In fact, Whoopi Goldberg just said this person should be the next Surgeon General. So you slump back onto the stretcher, deeply relieved. Maybe you're going to make it after all. Moments later, they wheel you into the hospital, and there she is, the famous doctor they just told you about.
Is he going where I think he's going with this? He is.
There's not a chart or an EKG machine in sight. Instead, she's turning on what appears to be an overhead projector. Jill, a nurse yells, "There's a patient here. What do we do?" "That's Dr. Biden to you," the woman replies icily, and then launches into a slideshow on equity and diversity in Delaware's community college system.
That would never happen in a hospital, Tucker.
For the first time in your life, you have no fear of death.
It would happen in a classroom.
You don't just walk toward the light.
Her doctorate's in education, I believe, right?
Contrary to what you may
She's
have
got a couple masters, too.
Is not a healer. She's not allowed to write prescriptions. She wouldn't know what to do with your appendix. Dr. Jill has an education degree from some school in Delaware, and you're supposed to find that.
It's the University of Delaware, isn't it? It's not just some school.
Now, many have laughed at the apparent absurdity of this, but we took it seriously because that's our job. We actually read
honestly
this week the very document that made her, quote, a doctor. And what did we discover when we did that? We're going to give it to you in a diagnosis. Dr. Jill needs reading glasses. Either that or she's borderline illiterate. There are typos everywhere, including in the first graph of the introduction. Dr. Jill can't write. She can't really think clearly either.
What? Let me see this.
Language using English words. They're essentially pure nonsense, like pig Latin or dogs barking. The whole thing is just incredibly embarrassing. And not simply to poor illiterate Jill Biden, but to the college that has craft scholarship. Embarrassing, in fact, to our entire...
This is embarrassing. Holy shit. I can't believe I'm hearing this. Like, these people are insane. This is a whole, like, 7-minute segment of him upset that she gets to call herself doctor? Are you jealous, Tucker? Oh, wow. You know he will. But they've got no problem with, fake doctors like Sebastian Gorka and shit.
System of higher education to the nation itself. Jill Biden's doctoral dissertation is our national shame. Are we overstating this? Well, you decide.
What?
On the very first page of Dr. Biden's opus, she describes an average class of students at a community college called Delaware Tech. Of course, she counts the students by their skin color. She's a Biden after all. But pay close attention to the math. Quote, 3/4 of the class will be Caucasian. 1/4 of the class will be African American. 1 seat will hold a Latino. And the remaining seats will be filled with students of Asian descent or non-resident aliens. In other words, somehow Dr. Biden accounted for all 5/4 of the class, which actually isn't easy. You've got to pay very close attention to do something like that. As the dissertation continues, so does Dr. Jill's habit of counting things in non-traditional ways. On page 47, for example, she writes this, quote, of the 159 students surveyed, 55 received financial aid, 41 paid their own tuition bills, 45 students' parents pay, 3...
Can we please see some papers that Trump wrote while he was in college? And break them down. And like, Jill Biden's not even the fucking president. I'm seriously stunned that I'm even hearing him do this. Holy fuck.
Spouses pay, 9 receive scholarships, and 9 others receive funds for the GI Bill, vocational rehabilitation programs, or grant. Now, we said that fast, but did you follow the accounting there? Jill Biden surveyed 159 students, but she received a total of 162 responses. So go ahead and try that at home. You can't. You're not a doctor.
What?
And it goes on. At one point, Dr. Jill suggests, and this is innovative, that, quote, the administration may want to consider in future planning an 8-week study week. An 8-week week. Bet you no one in the administration thought of that before. In their tired, Western, linear approach to time and space, there was only a single week in a week. Yet another relic of the patriarchy. But once Jill Biden smashed the glass ceiling that shielded community colleges in Delaware from new progressive approaches to time management, a week could have 8 full weeks. As Jill Biden herself might say, that's an 8,000% increase. Not bad. All right, we're being cruel there. We got to be honest and tell you that not.
But hey, at least we're back to having nothing scandals the Republicans are upset over. Distracting from the real problems facing the country. Can't talk about the real shit that the Democrats are doing, because the Republicans love the real fucking problems with the Democrats. Got to make up bullshit like this to get pissed off about Jill fucking Biden. Jill Biden is probably the best thing about Joe Biden. God.
Not all of Jill Biden's dissertation is hallucinogenic fantasy. Some of her claims seem real. Some are easily verified. Take this one. Quote, according to the retention director at Cecil Community College has made a concerted effort to address retention. End quote. So there you have it. In Delaware, retention directors say they're addressing retention. So consider the debate over Cecil Community College's retention efforts settled, straight from the source. And there are a lot of newsy bits like
did she
that.
give examples after that? It was a dissertation after all.
It's still online, at least for now.
I assume there was some sort of list that followed that.
Fun of it. If you dare to notice that Dr. Jill isn't a super genius, you hate all women. You're a dangerous misogynist.
I do believe there's some misogyny going on here, yes.
Would have never been written about a man.
And that managed to be petty, elitist, and misogynistic all at once.
As numerous professors told the New York Times, the suggestion that Dr. Biden not use the honorific was blatantly sexist and emblematic of the way many men question or disparage women's credentials.
But really, it's just
who needs the honorific?
No, but then do you give it oxygen by talking about it? Do you give it energy? But you do have to bring attention to it and saying this is outrageous.
I wasn't going to.
Ooh, they're so touchy. Interesting.
And that Sleaze Bucket Tucker here have to bring it up and do a segment on it.
That's wrong. We call Dr. Jill's husband dumb all the time. In fact, we're going to go full feminist here and admit that Dr. Jill is a lot smarter than the man she married. Not that it's saying much. Joe Biden never wrote a dissertation, even on community colleges. The only thing Joe Biden has written recently, a reminder note.
That she was doing in like the vernacular.
So it's not a sexism thing. What it is actually is a class thing. We have a class system in this country, and it's based on credentials like the.
That's why I said when he said the typos.
A certain sort of person in America gets advanced.
That's what. Show them to me.
Kinsey or goes to Yale.
Because I couldn't imagine.
Not in order to learn or to create or to.
She would have a bunch of typos in her dissertation.
No. Instead, to justify their power over you. They've got more merit badges, therefore they rule. It's a ridiculous system when you think about it. And that's precisely why they don't want you to think about it. It's why they shout at you and call you names when you mention it. It's why they're so touchy. If you're allowed to point out that Jill Biden isn't really a doctor, maybe not even very bright, then you're just one step.
But she is really a doctor, and you're not very bright.
Real either. It's all totally
what?
Just like the meritocracy that justifies their power.
Yes, I used AP style as well. I'm a fan of the Oxford comma. Alright, that's going to do it for me. Go ahead. Remember, I've got Politifish, Freddy Fresh tomorrow night. The clown dude from YouTube. Hopefully he's not going to back out. Do tune in for that. Go ahead, light one up, tip one back. It's all right to have a little fun for you at the sack. I'm Justin FREAKIN. We'll see you tomorrow night on the Troll Patrol.